HYPEBEAST and Hype Radio. I am Jaysse Staple, and this is The Business of Hype, a show about creative entrepreneurs, brand builders, innovators, and the realities behind the dreams they've built. One of the reasons why I created this podcast is so I can investigate what businesses in our market are going through right now and how these businesses will soon shape tomorrow. And I talk to the founders that are at the front lines of making dreams become a reality. Right now, in sneaker culture and street culture, we are in the Wild West. It's a whole new frontier with new boundaries being pushed what seems like every single week. And it's just not about kicks. The business of being a quote-unquote sneakerhead is now directly affecting big Fortune 100 companies. So news broke recently of a mainstream jeans and t-shirt retailer, American Eagle, partnering with a Las Vegas sneaker and streetwear consignment store, Urban Necessities. The first iteration of that partnership arrived this month in Soho, New York City. That news came with much fanfare, criticism, and conversation. Admittedly, some of that also came from me in an Instagram post I made questioning the motives of American Eagle. Many people claimed that I bore issue with Urban Necessities, its founder, or even the concept of reselling itself. But nothing could be further from the truth. My issue stems from the fact that American Eagle is doing something that is unprecedented. And I guess depending on which side of the fence you stand on, it could be positive or negatively unprecedented. So in a rare occasion where internet, social media, he said, she said, could be discussed openly and in person, I decided to pounce on that opportunity. This week's episode is a special one-on-one conversation with the founder of Urban Necessities. I'm hoping we could get a better understanding of where he came from, how he was able to get to where he is now, and how this seemingly unlikely partnership transpired. So hold off the blog posts, log off Instagram for 1 second, and listen straight from the source now with Mr. Jaysse Lopez of Urban Necessities. So one of the great things about, I think, podcasting is that because it's not video and there's not a big production, we can be very timely with some of the stuff that we want to bring to light, you know. And one thing that recently came to light was this thing that hit the news and hit the blogs, which we'll get into very soon. But I thought it'd be really great to have this week's guest on the show, on The Business of Hype. The Business of Hype is really all about how the world of street culture, sneaker culture, hype culture intersects with the world of Forbes, Wall Street Journal, publicly traded companies, and business, and how they interact, right? That's what the Business of Hype is all about. So when this topic came about, I was like, this is a perfect forum for us to talk about it in an open dialogue rather than through comments on IG or through DMs or through, oh, I think he said this and he meant that. Like, let's just have a conversation, right? That's what this show is all about. So without further ado, if you can introduce yourself, who do we have in the studio today?
Jaysse Lopez, one of the owners of Urban Necessities.
All right. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming, for real. So I know recently there's been a lot of news in terms of like what's been going on and you know, a lot of positive news because actually the venture that you recently opened up is freshly opened, right? As of us recording this, how long have you been in business in New York City? 20 days old. So it's like super ripe. Like it's like the green banana that you can't eat yet. Okay, so you're 20 days old right now. But when did you start the business?
I opened Urban Necessities out in Vegas September 17, 2014. So a little over 4.5 years.
Okay. And it's always been in Vegas up until now?
Up until now, yes.
Okay. So tell us, I guess, you know, I know a lot of news has sort of been going about right now, but I wanted to start from the beginning. I wanted to do this interview sort of chronologically so that all the listeners understand the process of what happens. Right. Because I think one of the things that a lot of the younger generation that live on social media and Instagram, what they miss out on is the backstory. They just see the finish line, right, and then they make assumptions based off of that. You know, so I think it's important that we go back. Let's go to before Urban Necessities was even born. What were you doing? Who were you? What was your hustle back then?
So I've been in retail my whole life, right? I'll be 40 years old this year. I've been in retail since I was 14. From working at McDonald's and realizing really fast that wasn't my thing, to even selling jewelry at George Jensen. Like, I've been in all walks, like all forms of retail.
Vegas always?
No, Jersey,
Oh,
Dallas.
okay.
I've been pretty much everywhere, man. I was a real knucklehead when I was a kid. I moved to Vegas, I want to say 2001-ish. I didn't have my stuff together, so to speak, and I had a daughter, and I wasn't seeing her as much, and my mom was like, hey, Jay, you got to be closer to your kid. So she gave me $20 and a plane ticket and told me figure it out, right? So I go out there. I don't even have a cell phone or anything. It's just literally the clothes that I have on and a change of clothes. I figure I take these $20, I put it in a slot machine. Maybe I turn it into 100 and find the guy selling some weed, and I break the weed down, and that's how I make some money, right? But it didn't work out like that at all.
Did you legit do that?
Yeah.
You took the $20 your mom gave you and decided to
As
gamble.
soon as I got off the plane, like, you know how there's slot machines in the airport? So I didn't even, my 20 was gone before I even sat down. So like, now I'm in full-blown shock. I probably spend like 4 or 5 hours trying to figure out what I do, right? I wind up being homeless for about 6 months.
In the streets of Vegas.
Yeah, in the streets of Vegas. So I find a park that's off of like Maryland Parkway in Charleston, and I'm like living there for like 6 months. First couple of days I struggled, obviously, right? Because there's pride involved. You don't really want to ask people for stuff. And like, I ate out of trash cans. I snuck into hotels, like, to shower and stuff. Eventually I find Fashion Show Mall. I start panhandling in front of Fashion Show. I go from panhandling to selling water. And then one day randomly I see a bunch of dudes standing in line for sneakers on like a Thursday night. And I'm
What
like,
year is this, just so kids know the reference?
man, I want to say this is like 2000, 2001.
Okay.
And
This is real early in sneaker culture then. Like,
yeah,
I'm trying to think
super.
what kids would even be lining up for back then.
man, it was
This is
so long.
pre-SB.
Yeah,
right?
this is like, I don't even really remember the shoe. It's been that long, right? But so I see these kids standing for shoes on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're standing in line for shoes. And I'm like, well, when does the shoe come out? Saturday. And I'm like, it's Thursday.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's not registering to me. It's just like any random parent that walks into a sneaker store and is like, I don't get what my kid's into this.
Yeah. Like, you feel like they're the knuckleheads.
Right. So I'm thinking this is crazy, but long story short, I start becoming a mule for a lot of these guys, and I just start standing in line. I start making money that way.
Okay.
I start selling water on the strip and panhandling. So between those three little hustles, I wind up saving enough money to like start paying for weeklies. I'm sleeping on a bed now. Eventually get a job. I job hop a little bit. And it's about 8 years, almost 8 years ago now. I worked for a cell phone company, AT&T, and I was doing okay. I was like top 3 percentile in sales for them. I always did my thing, but I got really sick. I started having seizures, and I went on FMLA for a while. And well, with insurance, the way stuff works is once you become too much of an expense for a company, they find a creative way to get you out, right?
Yes.
And like most Americans, I was living outside my means when I was making my normal money. And on FMLA, you only make 60% of what you normally make. So living outside my means, not really having money saved up, I wind up getting eventually evicted out of my apartment, car repoed, meet a girl, tell her I'm in her shoes. But at that time, like, I'm in her shoes, but I can't really necessarily tell you like the name of shoes, why certain shoes go for what they go for. I just was like, if I saw a shoe that I liked, and it was on the shelf, I would cop, right?
So you wouldn't call yourself a sneakerhead necessarily. You were more like a style guy.
Yeah,
right?
I just, I was always attracted to nice stuff. Like, I come from the stereotypical environment, like very big into rap and, like BET and all those, like Yo MTV Raps and all the rap videos. Like, I looked up to that lifestyle. So I meet my girl, who's now my wife, Joni, and I tell her I'm in her shoes. 2 weeks into dating, I'm evicted out of my apartment, living with her and her parents, and I'm trying to buy shoes to hold me over till I find another job. Well, the job never came. It was like December, about 7-8 years ago now, and she's from Hawaii.
Okay.
So she's inviting me to go to her to meet her family, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to Hawaii to meet your parents when I'm like legit a bum, you know. So, but the benefit was when I stayed behind, I had her car. So I started going to all the sneaker stores in the city, and I'm like, yo, remember the name, remember the face. Day's gonna come, I'm gonna buy every shoe, right? And looking back, it's kind of crazy that I was saying that because I didn't know my left from my right. I just started adding myself to Facebook sneaker groups and paying attention on Instagram to influencers and what was coming out. And the first shoe that I resold was the Area 72 Barkley Posite. Okay. So the initial plan was to buy 3, sell 2, keep 1, like every other sneakerhead that's trying to fund it through reselling shoes. And I had yapped about this shoe so much to my girlfriend at the time that she put in a little bit of money. I put in a little bit of money because I got my income tax return. We bought 18 pairs. I sold 17 for $200 over retail. Okay. So she's like, I think you're onto something. You should try this again. Like, keep at it. Right. The next week, lose my ass. Week after that, lose my ass. Week after that, like
it's
break
like the
even.
Vegas gamble.
Yeah. It's like horrible, right? So we're going at it for 6 months.
Losing your ass on shoes.
Yeah, but I'm still like, I'm happy, right? And like, I'm finding this outlet that I never had before.
And you have no job still?
No job, but I've applied over 100 different places for jobs. As you can see, aesthetically, I've done some things that might not necessarily make me the ideal candidate for a retail job, right? And
now, you know, this is a podcast, so they can't see you.
Right.
But you're talking about
like the tats on my face, the gauges, and all that. Like, you know, at AT&T, they even gave me a hard time about the tats, even though they hired me with a lot of the tats that I have, like on my hands and my neck and stuff. So, long story short, it's up and down for 6 months, right? I open up a website on Store Envy. I'm paying like $7 a month for this website, taking pictures with construction paper backgrounds, holding an iPhone and a lamp to take the pictures. We're doing pre-orders. Like, I'm going to stores and now seeing that stores are like backdooring to their boys or whatever, but this is like before they're even really getting paid for it. Yeah. So I come in like the logical side of it. I'm like, dude, you're risking your job and you're not even making any money on the side. Like, for what? Yeah. Right. So I started paying people like $20 over retail to hold pairs. And then I started running pre-orders. Yeah. And that worked a little bit, but it dried up. My girlfriend and I at the time, Joni, now it's like becoming dysfunctional. Life is like, so we split 6 months in. Okay. So I start now selling all my clothes, all my sneakers to pay for motels, rental cars. And I'm just trying to keep the dream alive.
Do you remember how many shoes you had at this point in your life?
When I left, when we split, I had about 220 pairs. Okay. So I was good for about 5-6 months, but I'm like undercutting and lowballing myself.
Yeah, you're just trying to liquidate right now. Yeah.
So I run out of stuff to sell. This is
oh my
like,
God, you ran out of stuff to sell?
I ran out of stuff to sell, and keep in mind, like now I don't really have a car or anything. So I don't have a way to really get around, so I can't really attack the releases the way that I once used to. And I started seeing people being incentivized and motivated more to resell in Vegas, right? And I'm like, man, nobody's really doing consignment. So I run out of stuff to sell. I call a buddy. I asked to sleep on his couch. That there's this really small trade show that's about to happen in Vegas that's 2 weeks out. So I tell pretty much everybody I'd sold shoes to over a course of about a year, like, hey, let me sell the shoes you guys aren't wearing. Some of these things have gone up in value. Like, you guys always complain about the cost of the next shoe, and you don't even wear what I've sold you. And I was charging them $20. Yeah. Like, I didn't care about making money. It was just about having something, right? So when I got to that point, I was down to like 18 pairs of shoes, but they were bricks. Like, I couldn't give them away. Yeah. And I turned those 18 pairs into 684 pairs in 2 weeks on some guy's couch in a 400 square foot apartment.
How did you turn the 18 to?
Just from like spit handshakes, hitting up everybody I had known. And they're like, it's crazy, bro. Like, I'm to the point where like they're dropping the shoes off at this apartment. Like, thinking about how reckless that was, like looking back, it's like, I don't know how anybody was like trusted me with that, right?
So you basically built like a mini consignment store in this apartment.
Right.
And you had over 600
684.
shoes. And you were paying how much for them? Like 20. Like
so if it's sold,
rock bottom. Oh, okay.
If it's sold, I kept $20.
Okay.
Right. So then I go do this trade show.
Imagine that place flooded or got robbed.
Oh
or
yeah, it was
burned.
scary. And then it's like my boy and his wife and their kid, and every day they're coming back into the house, and there's more shoes, and I'm like, I'm sorry. And you have to like literally like wiggle your way into. It was crazy. Like I took over the kitchen, I took over the kitchen table, the living room. Like it was chaotic. I inventoried everything, put it all in binders because I only had a handful of tables. I had Franalations was there. Back then I knew Fran, and I said, Fran, hey, I'm gonna do this event. Like, would it be cool if you like co-signed it and you like paired up next to me, and we had guys doing sneaker cleaning. I had Holy Grail, the consignment shop in LA, consigned shoes with me, and we took all these shoes, and Joni and I hadn't spoke for 6 months, but I had like 5 or 6 homies that helped me kind of do all this selling, and we sold like 450 pairs that day.
Wow.
And I met some people from Boulevard Mall, and they were like, man, you should open a store. I'm like, guys, I don't even have a pot to piss in. What are you talking about, a store? Right? They're like, well, if you could get a business license and you could write us a post-dated check, we'll give you a store. So I went to Boulevard Mall, which opened up in 1968. It's the first mall in Vegas. It was the mall, but it fell off like hard. It's like the raggediest mall in all of Nevada. Like, forget Vegas. It's just trash.
Even
right?
Reno?
Yeah, it's worse, bro. And I picked a store in a hallway that had been closed for 5 years. Store had been closed for 7 years. Used to be a sneaker store at one point. I didn't have any neighbors for my first 6 months. My rent was just $500 a month.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't have any money to really pay employees. So what I did was I made a post when I only had 2,200 followers on the gram. And I was like, hey, if you have a local clothing brand, pass by. I'd love to sell your stuff. Right. So then they would come to this mall where I have no neighbors, and they wouldn't even turn the hallway lights on when it got dark. Right. And I'm like pitching this whole like vision of like, yo, I'm going to bring people from all walks of life. This is going to be the spot in Vegas. Like, you know, like I'll sell your stuff, but we'll charge you like percentage of sales and rent space. And then I'm like literally picking off spots in the store. Like, this is 200, this is 150, this is
carving it up.
Right.
Yeah.
19 brands said yes. And
Okay.
that's how I got to pay my employees. Right. So we open up the day I signed my lease to the mall, after I put money in the bank account, I got my LLC and all that, I have $40 left over. That was it. So then I haven't talked to Joni. I'm not talking to Joni. Joni found out that I'm opening a store, and she gifted like this imagery that I wanted to put in the store. I'd always talked about, yo, if I ever get this chance to open a store, I want to do like not the evolution of man, but the evolution of dunk, and take players that weren't dunking and then getting to players that are dunking. And she gifted that to the shop, even though we weren't on speaking terms. And when I found out she gifted it, I called her and I was like, yo, I can't do this without you. You have to come back. We have to make this work. And it's whacked, man. I opened September 17, 2014. By December 31st, we did $1 million in sales. I didn't have
Of that same year?
Of that same year.
In that
raggedy ass
shitty
mall.
ass mall?
Yeah. I didn't pay myself for the first 10 months. My first paycheck to myself was $85. We didn't have neighbors for the first 6 months. I didn't have a website for like the first year and a half. So we started offering FaceTime appointments. We're like, hey, okay, call the shop. We'll give you a FaceTime appointment. What size are you? Size 9? Dope. Okay, let me open up this closet where I have 7 pairs of size 9. And most of them are fucking beat, you know, but we were doing that. Then I started adding myself to all these Facebook sneaker groups. I'm like in over 1,000 Facebook sneaker groups, and I don't comment much, but I pay attention to what's going on. And early on, I used to just have like this big long spiel. Hey, my name's Jay. I own a store in Vegas. It's located 10 minutes from the strip, blah, blah, blah. Like, and customers started coming from everywhere, from like all over the world. And one of the complaints I started seeing really early on were there was no Uber or Lyft 5 years ago in Vegas.
Right.
So guests were paying $50 to come from the strip, and I was like, that's like too much.
Yeah.
So we bought a car and we started picking people up from the strip and bringing them. Like, there was no reason why, in my opinion, there was no reason why we couldn't make a sale, right? And
wow,
like 8 months in, we run out of room. We relocate into a store that's twice the size
in the same mall. Okay.
Right now, I'm next to a Finish Line. And at first, I'm like, man, I don't know if this relationship's gonna work. Like, they're gonna hate us. Like, they're gonna feel like we're taking their guests. But it was a great relationship because, like, they were getting guys that were asking for stuff they don't get that we get, and then we were getting guests that were coming in that didn't understand consignment or couldn't justify the expense. The Finish Line is right next door.
Right.
Their foot traffic skyrocketed. Before I left that mall last year, we winded up being the highest we generated more revenue than the entire mall. We generated more foot traffic than the entire mall. Damn. And last year we relocated to Fashion Show Mall, which is on the Strip across the street from the Wynn.
Which is where you started panhandling, and
it's trippy as hell, man. There's times where like I'm walking through hallways and I like see stuff like
like PTSD shit,
bro.
like,
it's wild. And the day that we opened, we didn't have a sale, and we had a line damn near all the way to the Wynn, like out my store to the mezzanine, halfway down the bridge to the Wynn till like 5:30. It was taking people an hour and a half to get in, and then I had a second line from my register, which is at the back of the store, all the way out the door to pay, and there was no sale.
What do you mean there was no sale? Why?
I didn't have any sale. It was just people just came to support. And like people flew from Mexico, China, like Toronto. It's like wild, the support the brand has had from the very beginning. And I think it's because, you know, from the very beginning, we've tried to treat our guests like family. UN is a play on the United Nations. I constantly talk about how it takes all walks of life. And it's family, man.
You know, when Jaysse said he was a knucklehead during the interview, I didn't quite understand what he meant. But man, from gambling the only money he had in his pocket to using an apartment for storing all his resale inventory, which, by the way, is technically other people's inventory, to opening a store in the deadest mall in the state, I'd say many of Jay's decisions are questionable at best. But what works for one man, or what works in a textbook, doesn't necessarily work for everyone. I think the most important element is your environment. The reason why a silver bullet answer to all of life's problems doesn't work, it's because each person is going through their own individualized shit. Society will never cease to run out of bullshit things to throw at you. When Jay saw the sneaker business bubbling, he wanted in. To think, his first dollar in the sneaker industry was waiting in line as someone's mule on a sneaker release. Dude was homeless. But he wasn't just interested in growing his own collection or flipping a few shoes for a couple of bucks. He wanted all in. The journey he's been on to where he is now just shows how deserving he is for any opportunity that has come his way. Jay's journey is quite literally full circle. He opened a multi-million-dollar business in the same location he used to beg for money. If you've been blessed enough to encounter what it is that you are passionate about, don't question it. Make the most out of it, own it, and never let it go. And if you ever think the possibility that that dream could actually become your reality is way too far-fetched, think of Jay's story. And to think, he hasn't even crossed the finish line yet. He's only just getting started. So what do you think is the secret recipe? Like, it doesn't sound like you had a huge multi-million-dollar marketing budget or ad campaign. Was it like, what was the secret recipe of how people like align themselves with your brand?
I think it's just that we've been very consistent, right? And in the sense that we show up every day. And we're willing to do more than what most consignment shops are doing. Like, if you look at what I've done, like, I haven't missed a sneaker con in 4 years. Think about the burden and stress that adds monetarily to the brand, or like just the day-to-day, right? Even now, like, I'm not at our Vegas shop, but it's functioning, right? Yeah. They see that. I don't think other shops are willing to put in that type of effort. Like, yeah, they're grinding, they're making money, they're opening more stores, but are they really working from the second they open their eyes till they close them? I don't think that's the case. And I think I've been very transparent in the way that we operate. And I'm also trying to create other entrepreneurs, right? Like, if you look at the content that I put out on YouTube, most of it is about how to generate $1 together, right? And bringing awareness to the little guy. Because without somebody's cosign at some point throughout this entire process, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunities that I have.
Yeah. Let's say you're talking or someone who's listening to this show right now is a complete layman and doesn't understand the concept of sneaker culture or consignment, can you explain to them how your business model works?
I mean, consignment's been around since the beginning of time, right? I think a lot of times because it's most parents and grandparents, right? They're the ones that they're like, I don't understand why they're paying $1,000 for this shoe. And even when I opened my store, when I would see these kids, I'm like, how the fuck are they affording this, right? And I start asking the questions to their parents, and it's like, I realized it starts the same for everyone. Started with one shoe, they took that shoe, they flipped it. Now it's paying itself, right? Yeah. And it's like stock. These kids are very creative and understanding the direction stuff is going, and they're understanding when to sell, right? And, stuff, and now, like, it's not so much margins. Now it's volume. For everybody, it's volume, and I think that's great. You know, we came in with a 10% consignment rate. I forecasted 6 years ago that this is the direction it had to go. So for us, we don't really have to shift or adjust because we've been operating on that from day one, and we're growing and showing that it works if you run it right.
So just to break this down, so a kid gets his hands on a shoe, he brings it to your store, he drops it off. He dictates the price, or you dictate the price?
We're going to tell them to play within reason, right? There's apps like Gold and StockX that I think have done a great job of becoming kind of like the Kelly Blue Book of sneakers. And we tell them, hey, look, you could price it at that or within this percentage above it. And if you do that, we should be able to move your items in a fair amount of time.
Okay, so kid pays $100 for a shoe. He brings it to you. You say this shoe's worth $1,000, right? And you put it on your shelf for $1,000. You don't have to pay anything yet.
Correct.
Okay. So a third customer comes in and he drops $1,000 now. Right, so kid doesn't get all 900. He gets 900 minus your percentage.
So if we sell the shoe at 1,000, he gets his 900 once the item is paid for. We cut the checks the following week. Okay. Right, so we have a consignment manager that's very transparent, and it tells you the status of your items in real time. And the beauty of it, because we have QR codes in the store, everything's QR code based. Okay. Consigners could change their prices in real time, and they don't have to wait for somebody at the store to actually give a shit and change their label.
What,
right?
They do it through a back-end website?
Consignment manager. So they go in and they change the price. It's kind of just like, it's like a watered down version of StockX. It's a live marketplace within the store. Right. And we don't even have to change the labels in the store. So it's in real time when the prices are changing. So it's great. And, you know, teaming up with American Eagle on it, it's just going to make me logistically more efficient. And that's why I was so excited about pairing up with these guys. Because we turned it into, you know, I turned that $40 into 20 million in sales last year, not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. Right. Right. So now I got some guys that are pretty good at retail that are going to kind of speed the process up and allow me to still do something that I really have a passion for.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to that kid example. So your take is 10%.
Correct.
And just so for the people who know or don't know, what is the industry average like versus eBay, Stadium Goods, GOAT, StockX, like Flight Club?
Some of my neighbors in the city are at 20.
Okay.
Right. If you become like a power seller for them, they cut you down to 15. We're at a flat 10. If you sell on eBay with PayPal fees, it winds up being about 14. It's the lowest in the country.
So if you're a kid and you're trying to resell, wouldn't you just be looking for the lowest possible rate, or is there an advantage to paying more for some reason?
I mean, if you're selling, it doesn't really matter the percentage. Honestly, at the end of the day, you're looking to move it as fast as possibly can, right? And although some places might charge a higher consignment rate, they're charging more, so you're getting paid the same. It's just more of who you can relate to and what works, right? And that's, you know, you've seen some of the horror stories with consignment. Like it could get botched up really fast, and I feel very fortunate that over this 4.5, 5 years that, you know, although we've taken a couple lumps here and there, that we've been able to be very transparent and still grow with some of the headaches and growing pains of running a small business.
How do you handle bootlegs and fakes?
Like everybody else, you try to learn as much as you can and create the awareness. You know what, I've accidentally gotten some wrong, like the team, and I've taken ownership of that. I tell I even did a YouTube video when I got one wrong, because I think it's more important for you to know when I got it wrong than when I got it right. I'm supposed to get it right. You know what I mean? So it's something I've had to become a student of it really, really fast. I'm learning on the fly. You know, I've been very fortunate to build great relationships with other consignment shops and other business owners.
Just learning from
and
one
share
another.
best business practices. Like, that's probably the most enjoyable part. It's the sneaker world isn't what it used to be 10, 20 years ago, where like if you knew something, you wouldn't tell anybody. You know what I mean? Like now it's a lot more open. Social media has changed all that.
Do you think the bootlegging thing is going to get worse in the future? Like, is there going to be more and more bootlegs flooding, or do you think it'll get actually better somehow?
I mean, until the brands make a more conscious effort, it's like, that's a never-ending battle.
Okay.
In my opinion, like there's always going to be the bootlegger that walks into a consignment shop, buys it, and then starts making it, or walks into a regular retail. Like, that's always going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, and there's always going to be somebody that's going to want to cut a corner and doesn't really care about the recourse, you know?
Sharing knowledge is so much more important, more so now than ever. That's one of the main reasons why we're motivated to create the Business of Hype for all our listeners. This is real knowledge for how to turn your idea or passion into a business. The education can be 30,000 foot, or it can be as granular as how to spot a bootleg shoe. Or it could be the knowledge of how to negotiate a deal with a billion-dollar organization. Jay's going to go into this more shortly. But the sneaker industry is bigger than ever, and opportunities are popping up all over the place. Apps, stores, luxury brands, private equity funds, partnerships, collaborations, everyone is getting a piece of the pie. It can be hard to try and figure out how to navigate that, especially at the scale of where business is today. Again, learning from one another helps everyone involved. Jay's a down-to-earth guy that seems to have all the right intentions with his business. He's a sneakerhead who cares about being there in the store and creating a lasting connection with his customers. And he also wants a positive experience with the resellers. But now he's also a businessman. And with his new partners, he will need to figure out how to scale that experience as quickly as possible without losing that competitive edge. So you alluded to your partnership or joint effort with American Eagle. Talk about how that even began. Like, how did that first happen?
I still like shake my head
Because I doubt you walked into an American Eagle with a pitch deck.
Not
right?
at all.
No,
And
okay,
they didn't come to me like that either. We have a mutual friend. His name's Mayor. You know Mayor?
Of course.
Right. So I met Mayor 2 years ago at SneakerCon, and I walked up to him and I was like, Mayor, like, dude, I just want to say thank you for being part of the Hispanic community, being able to stay relevant for all these years. And I try to introduce myself to him, and he's like, oh, I know who you are. And this is like when Mayor is like still very anti-reseller. He's like making videos, talking shit all the time. Like, I love Mayor. I love that guy.
Me too.
I really appreciate the fact that he's worked really hard to be able to grow a voice and be very open and talk how he feels. Not everybody's gifted that.
Yeah.
So I meet Mayor that time. Then a couple months later, we're in London for Crep, presented by Open a Store.
Crep Protect.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get the opportunity to sit next to him during this dinner.
Okay.
So he shares his story, I share mine. Mayor's like, man, I didn't know resellers had stories like that. Like, I didn't know resellers did stuff like, and his tune changed with reselling. You've seen that he's like nowhere near as vocal anymore about reselling. So, you know how like sometimes you go to stuff but you don't want to go, but something tells you to go, and like a door opens. Yesterday. Yeah. So that's Agenda for me. I've gone to
Agenda, the trade show.
Right.
Okay.
So 7 years straight I go, and I'm just trying to learn. And
wait, are you saying you kind of dislike going to Agenda every time?
Yeah, because I wasn't ready for it. I was trying to force my way into something. I just was frustrated with the process. Like, the process is, if you're not, insert name here, you're not going to get any time. Your body of work doesn't matter.
Are you talking about exhibiting at Agenda?
No. Just going in and trying to build relationships and
as a visitor,
right? And trying to get accounts into the store. I didn't want to sell sneakers through accounts. I wanted to get like
clothing brands,
Stan socks.
Yeah.
Staple, like Mitchell and Ness, stuff like that I thought would work.
For sneakerheads who were going into the store, right?
Because I just saw money being like left on the table. And that's, as a business owner, you're like, how can I turn another dollar, right? So 6 years of just getting ignored. Like so I go to this.
Wait, can I ask why? Do you think it's because there's like a stigma against a resale store? Why? Yeah. Why do you think you were getting ignored by going to a trade show?
I was in a raggedy ass mall.
Okay.
That no one's heard of. I had a brand that had a very small following with no other brands co-signing it.
Yeah.
And then I was too close to other boutiques in the city.
In the Vegas
right?
area,
So it's like, hey, you want a stance account? Cool. How far are you from this store? Oh, I'm a mile and a half. No. And I get it. So back to
agenda.
I don't want to go. I'm telling my wife I'm not going to go. I'm just going to hang out at the shop. If people come, cool. If not, cool. And then last minute, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to go.
Okay.
Right? And I was like, I could probably run into an influencer or two, snap a picture, show relatability, maybe sell a sneaker to somebody, get some people to come down to the store. And I see Mayor walking around with Fat Joe. So I'm there really with no purpose. I see Mayor, and Mayor's like, yo, come on, I want you to talk to some people.
Is this last summer?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember Fat Joe at this show.
Yeah. So I'm walking around with them for a little bit, and then they sit me down with Tackma. They introduced me to Janice from Tackma, and Mayor's like, Jay, you got to tell them your story. So I'm like, all right, I hope you got a little bit of time, right? And I tell her my story. Janice is blown away by it. She calls Jeffrey Schottenstein, who's the owner of Tackma, which Tackma stands for They Could All Kiss My Ass. It's about not seeking approval, doing things your own way, so on and so forth. So I go, and they're like, all right, you got to meet Jeffrey. So I go, I meet Jeffrey. And Jeff's like, man, this story's crazy. I need you to say that on camera. So then he gets a camera, and it winds up being part of a campaign with Vegas Jones and a couple other people. But they don't really run with it. Like, and he was very kind enough to send me like a care pack as a thank you with some clothes. I rock it. I mention it on social media because I can relate to their story, right? Like I am technically their story. And so it cooks for them. Like it gets good traction. They get good engagement. Some orders come in. A couple months later, they send me another pack. Same thing. I shot it out, this and that, and does well for them, right?
Yeah.
And now fast forward, I go in that time frame. In those 6 months, I went from being, that was the September show, and then at the beginning of this year was the next one. So when the next one came up, they're like, yo, I'm at the new store. They're like, Jay, we want to do our activation in your store. Tackma.
Okay.
Instead of at Agenda, because Agenda's like, it's not what it used to be.
No, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And they're like, how much are you going to charge you? And I'm like, charge us. I'm like, charge you? Why would I charge you? You guys are family. Like, I was like, look, what? Instead of giving me money for taking some spot in my store, why don't we just collaborate on a shirt, donate the money to Puerto Rico? Because Puerto Rico was going through some stuff, and I'm Puerto Rican.
Right.
And they come in, they bring clothes. Everything sells. 3 days.
Did they set up a shop or a place where the buyers
it was like a shop
to?
and shop. Buyers, everybody was coming. So they get all sorts of crazy orders. All the merch there sells.
To Fashion Show Mall.
In Fashion Show Mall.
Right.
It sells out in my store. All the Tackma people are like blown away by my foot traffic, the interactions, like how excited people are. And I get a call like 2 months later from Jeffrey. And Jeffrey's like, dude, you've helped us all these times. You've never asked for anything. Like, how do we help you? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, what do you need help with? And I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that question, right? Like, I'm like, look, the only thing I want to start that I have no idea how to start is creating a nonprofit. I want to start the You and Me Foundation, and just like, it's not dedicated to like specific needs. It's just all needs. Whatever the help is, like you want to start a clothing brand, cool. We'll get you in front of the design people and let you play with materials and this and that. You want to start a rap career? Fuck it. We'll get you in front. That's all I wanted to do, right? And he's like, that's cool and all, but we need to talk in person. So next thing you know, I'm on a flight to Boston.
Okay.
And we're, hanging out with him and his family and a couple rabbis and stuff like that. And like, it's culture shock for me, but it's a very, like, it felt very genuine, right? And next thing you know, there's a phone call to his dad. Jay Schottenstein, who
Jeffrey's dad.
Right.
Okay.
At like 3 a.m, but he's hanging out with Jay-Z and Beyonce at some, like, Jay was performing in Cleveland, and after they're kicking it. So he's like, yeah, whatever, just get him to come to New York and we'll figure it out. Right? So.
But you didn't understand what was going on.
I'm still like confused, right? And so a week later, I'm in New York. I'm going to one of Jay's condos out here. And I'm thinking it's going to be like this scenario where it's like, Jay's like, all right, son, here's how you fix retail. Pat on the ass, go get it, right?
Like you're hoping for one tip.
Yeah, that's all I'm expecting.
Okay.
And instead, it's like the who's who of who for American Eagle, like, you know, CFOs, CCEOs, like president of finance, the guy that runs retail, like real estate, and it's like red pill, blue pill. Which one do you want? Partnership, or we just go 50-50 on a store?
What?
Right. He was like,
Jay there?
Jay was there. That was it.
Did you even get a prep as American Eagle? Like
no. So I was like looking at my wife, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
say the
is this
two options
real?
again. Just
so
okay.
Open a store in New York, 50-50 split. No help back end. None.
So open a UN store.
Right.
Okay.
50-50 split. No help back end. Or figure out a percentage that I'm willing to cough up of the brand and blow this up the way that I envision it. Okay. I curate all of it.
Okay.
I mean, I knew my answer before I even left the room.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Did you answer then and there?
Nah, they wouldn't let me.
They wouldn't let you answer.
They were like, take some time, think about it.
And then, were the Schottensteins there too?
Yeah, Jay was there. Like, everybody was there. There was rabbis there too, and it was just.
I love that there's rabbis there. Like blessing
these guys
this
are great. They're great, and so now I like walk away from this, like just like I can't believe we've gotten to this point where someone even gives a shit to even try to help us out.
Yeah, because how many years has it been since you were panhandling and waiting in line for people?
It's 18 years, but you know, like I've been struggling my whole fucking life.
Yeah, and you remember that so vividly.
And so we go back, and Joni's like, this can't be, like, my wife's like, this can't be real, right? So then we start having the conversations, and the concern that I bring up to them is one that you brought up a couple weeks ago, right? It's like, what business do they have being in this culture? And I told them that, but I wasn't like, this isn't going to work because of this. I said, I have to understand more. I have to learn more. I have to see more, right? So I started paying attention to my guests. 4 out of 10 people walking into my store wearing American Eagle, right? I'm paying attention, like, to guests walking in with American Eagle bags because there's an American Eagle store there, right? Then I told them, you guys have to come see my world. You have to come to Toronto Sneaker Con with me and see what I have to deal with. Like, see what it takes. See if this is something that you guys think we could make more efficient.
Is there an American Eagle in Fashion Show Mall?
Okay. It's on the other side of the mall.
Okay, so you were able to see what they're about.
Yeah.
And their customers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the direction of what they're doing with all the, like, the new planograms and stuff like that. It's a lot cleaner.
Is there a connection? Is there a guy who is waiting in line for Yeezys and wants American Eagle?
I mean, I'm watching it day in and day out while I'm here in New York.
Right.
Look, there's tons of people that could justify spending $400 or $500 on shoes, but they won't spend $80 on jeans. They're not going to spend $400 for Amiris, like, but they want that Amiri look. So I'm paying attention to all this, and I'm seeing, like, man, I'm watching guys wearing joggers. I'm watching guys wearing American Eagle stuff. Like, granted, that might not be the first thing, like, if your culture to say, yo, I'm going to American Eagle to get this next hot fit, but it's infused enough, right? And then what I started looking at was more the number side of it. They're the number 1 vendor of denim for women in the United States. They're the number 3 vendor of denim for men in the United States. They generated, between all 500 plus businesses that they're a part of, almost $6 billion last year, right? I don't need help telling my story. I don't need help shaking my pom-poms. I need help making it logistically efficient so I could have a shot to compete against what Goat is doing, Flight Club is doing, what StockX is doing, what Stadium Goods is doing. Like, I don't want to give up on my dream.
Yeah.
Right? They're the guys that are going to help me do it. But then I start looking deeper into the brand. Like, okay, is this just a money grab for them? And I'm really thinking like, all right, well, we figured out a percentage and we figured out what we feel that percentage is worth. They think it's fair. But they're only keeping a third of my brand. I only did 20 million in sales last year, right? Like, and I operate on a 10% margin. So are they really doing this for money, or are they just fucking helping me out? Right? I'm on Houston and Broadway.
Yeah.
A store that needs absolutely no help with foot traffic, right? A store where the square footage is like almost $100 a square foot.
Yeah.
They don't need my help there.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm looking at what the family has done and how they've helped people. Like, they've gone from donating stadiums to football teams to like helping average Joe with a bunch of stuff that no one will ever hear about.
Yeah.
And then they've done more stuff for the culture than people will ever give them credit for. And the reason being is because there's no one yapping about all the stuff they're doing for the culture. And I started looking more at it. Like, the Schottenstein family came out of the mud.
Yeah.
Where they did a great job was just lining up with the right people to help them grow. And that's when I realized, like, American Eagle's an American brand. UN is an American dream. Like, it goes hand in hand. And sneakers and denim go together. And then, you know, when I told them, hey, it'd be cool if I had a maker studio where we could design, put patches, do this, do that, let me kind of curate. They're like, yeah, go. And like, since I've been there, denim jackets have never been in a top 50 item for them. It's top 3 right now. They've pulled every denim jacket from the whole city and put it in that store because we're cooking denim jackets that hard. And every single one of them's going out with UN logos and patches. It's so fucking dope.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
Hearing the inner workings of the partnership broken down from Jay is absolutely priceless. But Jay didn't jump at the bag. I'm glad he went into these conversations with American Eagle questioning their intentions. He did his research, he did his homework, and he realized just how prevalent AE was. So if you're Jay, seeing it and hearing it for the first time, you now get the idea that the partnership might not seem so out of left field the way it initially did. There's an intersection that's happening with today's sneakerhead. It may not make sense to these older heads who've been in the game for decades, but this is the innovation that catches the attention of a company like American Eagle. We often hear about big companies going in on a subculture for the cash grab, trying to capitalize on a growing trend. But this culture, sneaker culture and street culture, it's got a storied history, its own roots that are still strong, and it has emotional attachments that are revered by millions all over the planet, irrespective of race, religion, or language. The culture surrounding sneakers is passionate, and we are precious with our experiences and the way things are done. But this culture is also younger and more mainstream now than ever. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has some level of understanding of sneakers today. This all started with the sneaker brands recognizing the connections people were making with their product. Then the retailers started recognizing the value of what they had in their stockrooms. And now outside companies seeing that they too have some sort of connection, even if it's in the peripheral. Whether it's soda pop, chocolate bars, or faded denim, once these companies recognized that, it was only a matter of time before they decided to act. Whether it's going to work or not, we will all see. Whether it's good for the culture or not, we shall also see. But what we do know is that change is inevitable. And it's dope to see Jay venturing out there, fulfilling his dreams, while at the same time pushing the conversation further into what sneaker culture and big business is able to do together. So can you mentioned red pill, blue pill before, but like, can you go into detail more about like the structure of the deal?
I mean, look, it was 50-50 split if I took the red pill, and it was just going to stay the same. Yeah. I can't split a headache in two, and I didn't want it to be short term. Like
one shot deal.
Yeah, I saw like when I pitched to them what in my head I see UN potentially being, and them buying like them. I could see the excitement. Yeah. You know, like Jay wants me to open 100 stores. I said I can't. there's no way I could be in 100 different places at the same time. There's no way that I could get so many guys doing the authenticating. There's not enough shoes. There's just there's just not enough shoes. But I think maybe we could do 10 and have some pop-ups here and there over the years and provide an international experience.
Yeah.
So we settled on 10.
Okay.
10 stores. In the next 90 to 120 days, we have a completely new back-end system, which is going to, in my opinion...
Inventory control,
everything is changing. Like, we're going... Like, right now, everything's QR code-based. Like, and by the end of this year, you're going to be able to take your phone, tap the item, request to try it on, purchase it from your phone, suggestive selling, like all the things that have margin as a business owner that would excite you about pushing, that happen very inconsistently because we're all human, right? And we forget stuff. It's just like, it's gonna be fun.
So are you guys partners on the future stores or on the whole business?
The whole business.
So
they
even
own
like
a third
the
of
original,
them. They own a third of Urban Necessities.
Okay, nice. And so even the original one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So New York, like in markets where real estate is very high, it's going to be a shop and shop. In places where, our numbers and our trends show that we can handle it, we're gonna do it on our own. Like, we're opening Toronto in October, and that's going to be a standalone. And then on top of
with no American Eagle.
As of right now, it's no American Eagle. It's going to be 4,200 square feet, which is almost the size of my Vegas store. But it's going to be a standalone. And the other thing, we're bringing in barbers and tattoo artists. I'm bringing like world-renowned tattoo artists into the mix, master barbers into it. It's the Urban Necessities. It's going to be fun, like kind of trying to mold retail, right? Because retail's become very bland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so dope that like the tattoos and the hair was the reason why you couldn't get a job.
And now it's like
you could bring it into a publicly traded organization. No, I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Thank you.
Retail has needed a shift for a long time now. We've talked extensively in past Business of Hype episodes on recognizing the shift in creating and the widespread availability of tools for that shift in e-commerce because of growing digital and social landscapes. For a large corporation like American Eagle, a shift in your core customer can be make or break. When your customer changes, that's a sign that you might need to as well. So while American Eagle might be best known as a leader among the mall brands of yesterday, there's no denying that they're not going anywhere anytime soon. While other chain retailers have come and gone, American Eagle, to much of their credit, has recognized that a shift was necessary, and they've made efforts to rebrand themselves and update their approach again and again. The customers who spent their dollars at the mall with an orange Julius in hand may have grown out of the brand, but it's because a new core customer has been traded in, the Gen Zers. The partnership between Urban Necessities and American Eagle isn't the first time that the corporation has introduced a concept shop or invested in an experience beyond jeans, button-downs, and polos. They've had custom denim studios, cafes, laundry pop-ups, all in the name of appealing to that prime young consumer base. Is it pandering or business savviness? It depends on who you talk to. Either way, a large corporation like American Eagle is doing everything it can to build and maintain this ever-important word, relevancy. But of course, the story isn't all about American Eagle. Jay is here trying to change the consignment and reselling game through Urban Necessities as well. These types of partnerships and investments are great, but what they do with that partnership is important. The Urban Necessities and American Eagle partnership is all about expanding in the most obvious ways possible, creating infrastructure around Jay's company, making processes more efficient, and figuring out ways where tech can streamline the purchase experience are real, tangible ways Jay wants to succeed. And the better Jay and UN does, the better his customers see the American Eagle brand, which is vital for American Eagle. And if all goes well, this should be a win-win situation for these two parties. Okay, so let me tell you my perspective of it, right? So one day, 3 weeks ago, I live in the city, and I walk down Broadway, and my wife is with me, and she's like, oh, well, why are there pigeons in the American Eagle window? And I take a triple look, and I'm like, I don't know why pigeons are in here, like just front and center, right? And I was like, I don't get why. And then I look and I was like, maybe American Eagle went out of business and like a new store is in here, right? So I was like, no, there's still American Eagle logos in here. So I go around the corner and, you know, they have those big billboards along Houston Street. And I'm like, wow, there's like a lobster. There's a Khaled, right? And I was like, but there's an American Eagle logo under it, you know, with your logo. And I honestly didn't recognize your logo mark. So I just saw American Eagle and I was like, yo, this is crazy. And I actually like sort of mentally processed it for like a week. And then I made the post that I made, which really, I think if you read into my post carefully, which I don't think a lot of people did, I think if you read into my post, I have no problem with the concept of reselling. I'm all for reselling. To me, it's just American capitalism, right? And I also have no problem with an entrepreneur partnering. I think I'm 100% all for that too. And I want to ask you more about the partnership actually in a second. But, you know, where I had the problem was where, you know, someone whose intellectual property is in a place where you didn't want it to be. That's where I felt like...
No, and I totally understood your concern with
because
that.
you had that concern going into it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you know, if you have that tiff with us, like you could technically have the same tiff with like
Stadium Goods or Flight
Stadium,
Club. Right.
Flight, Walmart, you know, like Macy's. Then if you can't really stop there, you then wind up having to go to like Instagram and then maybe even like asking about that. Like I get it. Like you worked hard to build your brand to where it is today and to have that name recognition. And it's not something that you might have necessarily co-signed, right? I honestly, when I picked the items and I said, yo, this needs to be in the wall and this needs to be the imagery that we put out, I never factored that into my decision because I didn't think... You
DM me and you were like,
I'm like,
I'm
yo,
doing this out of respect.
Bro, like, I can't come into your city. Like, even though I'm from the tri-state area, I can't come in here and not pay my respects. And then the other part of it, too, is like, the way that I looked at the retail side of it is most hardcore sneakerheads, the ones that are anti-everything, right? And are the, like, worst customer. Okay. They're the worst, right? They're the ones that least spend and complain about everything, right? Are the guys that are the most vocal. Occasionally they walk into the store, right? You got to do enough and you got to have the stuff they don't expect you to have, right? If you would have walked in that American Eagle, like you looked at that window, you wouldn't expect them to have all those shoes. Yeah. And that was, I figured, a way that I could get people motivated. I have to put what's right. I have to put what's relevant. Right. I have to put what's a wow in the window. You know, there were items like, you're right, I didn't get them from Nike. I didn't get them from you. I bought those from private sellers and we just posted them like Stadium and everybody else would. You know?
I think you're right. I think there's something, and you know, this goes beyond legalities. This goes into emotional connection.
Yeah,
right?
and I get it.
Because I know Yu Ming and John McFeeters and Domaney, somehow it feels okay that they're doing this, right? And probably... if I saw a staple pigeon in UN in Vegas, no problem at all. Right. It's the fact that now there's this larger entity involved, and there's like, it feels a little bit like dangling of a carrot, and then you got to walk through what they sell to get to that carrot.
Yeah, but that's gonna change. That's the beauty of the relationship. Is like, even before I was running late to come to this because I was actually talking to them about how we're taking over more space in there and how I wanted to change even more of the imagery that's in there.
Yeah, I mean, you remember back in the day when Kith used to share a space with Atrium, right? And they had the shoe store, and then you had to go through the Atrium jeans, and then all of a sudden one day it was just all Kith, right? So hell, I hope one day UN just becomes all AE.
Yeah, no, I get it. We've actually been talking about taking over the entire first floor of that American Eagle, and that's probably going to happen after this. So here's the reason why we mentioned that it's a 1-year partnership, like that this location was a 1 year. They looked at my schedule, I looked at their schedule. We kind of are forecasting where we think the sneaker culture is going, and we were like, look, if we don't open March and we try to open next year, it's too late. Yeah. Right? So let's just give you the space. This is what we could get done in this time frame, and in a year, we redo all of it.
So it's a little bit of a hurry-up offense. Let's just get it in.
Dude, even the system that I have isn't ideally what I wanted. Like, you know, when you open something, it never goes the way that you envision it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, and but I'm excited about all the stuff that we're doing. It's gonna be really fun, man. But
I think there's a lot of in this resale culture. There's a lot of rules that are waiting to be written. It's like a new economy. There's like new rules, and no one's ever written rules for this stuff. You know what I mean? So I think on the one hand, my entrepreneurial hat tells me that like it's good that you are pushing things forward to make things happen. But I want to ask you a hypothetical question. So Foot Locker recently invested heavily into GOAT.
right,
And GOAT sells like Gucci, Balenciaga, right? And Fendi shoes. So this if this is okay, then that means that Foot Locker can take Balenciagas and put them in their window display.
why shouldn't they?
Right. Well, they have the right to, but if you're Balenciaga and you have a team of 25 people who are trying to control distribution, and now it shows up at the Foot Locker in the mall, you could see how Balenciaga would be like WTF.
In my opinion, that's a broken way to look at retail. Retail's very flawed right now, right?
Okay.
And we all collectively have to do more than what we've been doing and saying that it's okay for retail to continue to grow, right? We're trying to drive foot traffic to these locations, and going to what people are saying, this is what it looks like, it doesn't work anymore.
Because the consumer will get it no matter what.
Right. Well, right. And you have to try to cater to all walks of life. Like, yeah, I have $50,000 shoes in an American Eagle. Are they going to sell like from a walk-in? Probably. Right. And I also have shoes that are $100 that are the guy that's like, oh man, let me piece this fit. You have to have a little bit of everything. Like I've been pumping, Supreme doesn't want to hear it, but I've been pumping box logos out of there more than I sell in Vegas. And I get a bigger spender in Vegas than I do in New York.
Yeah.
Right? You have to try. That's the whole part. Like I mean, it's similar but not similar. A couple years ago, you tried stuff with, refresh my memory, with Pacsun.
Yeah, read space at Pacsun. Yeah.
So, and you said it yourself, like ideally you're like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work, or if is my customer going to embrace this, and then they came in and they said, yo, this shit is pretty fucking dope.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
It's a little different, I have to say, because I'll tell you why. All the brands that I carried in Read Space, I got their permission to sell it in those packs. Imagine if I did it without their permission.
Well, but again, you're operate. That's the part that's different.
I'm on a
you're
wholesale
on retail,
yeah.
Right? You're wholesale. I'm resale.
Yeah.
But I think that the consignment route is the route that every retailer is gonna have to go to, because like Amazon is beating everybody up, and we have no choice but to try something different. And I think that, I'm very fortunate knowing the people that I've met, and very fortunate that I've been able to keep my nose clean throughout this process to get the opportunities. But 10, 20 years ago, this would have been looked at like, you're out your damn mind. There's no way. Right? And at least we were given the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that people need to hear. And that's the part that needs to motivate people. Like if they don't like what we're doing, go do it better. Figure it out with the better brand. You know, I just wanted to give people something different. For me, UN is an experience, not so much like I'm not there to sell shoes. I'm really not. I'm trying to sell my shirts and my jackets, and maybe you get a tattoo and I get a kickback off of that while you're there, or you're playing the pinball machine and winning a store credit and buying the shoes that you couldn't justify that expense. This month we got almost $1,000 in plays on that pinball machine, and someone's going to get $500 towards a shoe or box logo or whatever they want in the store.
Yeah. It's a crazy time. I think, from a brand standpoint, they really have to like figure out, if you're Balenciaga, Staples, Supreme, you're almost talking about like full democratization of being able to access your goods, which unfortunately you remember from those agenda days, that's not what these brands want to hear.
Right, but I mean, once the consumer buys the product, they're free to do whatever they want with it. And you're always going to have a guy that's going to understand. He's going to be able to make more money than he paid for it in most cases. And you're always going to have businesses or people that are going to say, I could make even bigger dollar on that if I just put it in the right location. So it's like, does there need to be more of a uniform, like together society? Yeah, 100%. But I think it's the retailers and the wholesalers and the consignment shops. I think what's going to wind up happening long-term, call me crazy, I think like with StockX and GOAT, it's going to wind up being like Fox and the NFL, right? Fox paid the NFL X amount of money to be the only channel to carry NFC games for X amount, right? Like, I think that's what's going to have to happen. And then consignment shops maybe do get pushed out. Maybe they don't.
Right.
You know, like, but that's the only way that you could really police it to an extent is somebody cutting an extremely big check to only be the avenue, but then you're killing all these other stores.
Yeah.
Are the stores going to allow that, you know?
Right. I think it's the Wild West right now, man.
Yeah, it's dope.
I mean, and I'm really proud of you, of where you came from, where you're able to build your brand, even without American Eagle, quite honestly. But then now to have their backing is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great. You know, I'm really excited about the opportunities. Like I said, we're opening Toronto. We're having conversations right now about Shanghai. Like it's crazy, man. Like to think that little old us could get it together and provide this experience everywhere is really dope.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, man.
No, I'm humble to be here, man. It means a lot.
I can't wait to hear what the audience feels about this one.
Yeah, for real. Same. I can't wait to read the comments.
All right. Peace.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Here's my final takeaway on this after sitting down with Jay and talking it all out. As I've always believed, there is nothing wrong with reselling, in my opinion. Reselling is nothing more than a manifestation of supply and demand. It's been happening since sliced bread. I also believe there is absolutely nothing wrong with Jay selling a portion of his company to American Eagle. In fact, not only is there nothing wrong, it's everything that's right about business in America. If Jay didn't want to expand and scale, he could have just stayed reselling kicks out of his apartment. But Jay had goals, and this step with American Eagle is a gigantic leap towards those goals. The part that bothered me the most is the misappropriation of other brands and trademarks in alliance with American Eagle without prior authorization. In my own personal opinion, I still deep down think it's wrong. Today. But what I do think Jay is correct about is that the system is broken. While us on the brand creation side make a lot of effort to determine where things can be bought and sold and who isn't an authorized seller, the kids are able to get the goods wherever and however they damn want. So in a way, it's futile what we're doing. When he was telling me this, I was reminded of what Napster must have been saying to the record labels. And while I can't say it's okay what American Eagle is doing today, I can say I give props to Jay for taking a step to make this whole thing a big conversation starter. We can all see how this thing unfolds firsthand. And I wonder if the folks at Nike will have anything to say about this. All right, thank you for listening to this amazing episode with the relentless hustler, Jaysse Lopez, founder of Urban Necessities, which is now officially a division of American Eagle. As always, you can find out more about the show and listen to other episodes at hypebeast.com/radio. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I personally use Anchor FM. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think of the show. Tell a friend about the show. Everything you do to spread the word definitely helps out a lot. You can also reach out to me on Twitter. I'm at jeffstaple. And we occasionally answer listener questions on the show. So if you have a question, shoot it over to questions@businessofhype.com. The Business of Hype is created in collaboration with Bright Young Things. You can check out their work at byt.nyc. Our director is Daniel Navetta. Our audio engineer is David Rogers-Berry. Our associate producers are Sydney Pacumpera and Christina Hong. This episode was recorded on location at the Staple headquarters in New York City. I'm Jeff Staple, and you've been listening to The Business of Hype on HYPEBEAST Radio.